Hey everyone! Today we're continuing a series of videos going over the origins of the Age of Apocalypse, an alternate timeline where the villain Apocalypse took over the Earth and now leads a reign of mutant supremacy. In this video we'll be talking about the Inhumans and the blue area of the moon, as well as the rise of Generation Next, a mutant school run by Shadowcat and Colossus. Finally, we'll be covering the origin story of X-Man, this world's version of Cable. All that and more is included in this video, so be sure to stay to the end. In the time that followed his initial rise, Apocalypse unleashed a full eugenics war against the human population. The death toll climbed to staggering levels that left the human race and the X-Men, who tried in vain to protect them, broken and defenseless. In a bid to rescue outspoken critic of Apocalypse Robert Kelly from an ancient temple hidden away in Central America, Magneto was nearly killed by two villains serving in Sabinur, Diablo and the Absorbing Man. The man once known as Eric Leshner was nearly overwhelmed by this attack, only saved at last minute with the aid of Rogue and Nightcrawler. As the group settled down with a very grateful Robert Kelly, Nightwing informs Eric that Kurt's mother, Mystique, has discovered the location of Apocalypse. Shortly after the encounter with his father, Scott Summers was dispatched to a giant vessel named simply the Ship. Built millennia ago by an unknown race of aliens, it was discovered by Apocalypse and used as a base of operations by one of his horsemen, that of Death. Now plagued with thoughts of doubt, Cyclops began questioning everything he was once raised to believe. He witnessed Death torture the recently captured Sunfire. Cyclops tells Death he has come here to escort a transport on behalf of Apocalypse to the Dark Beast, and Death, aware of this assignment, tells Summers he will simply have to be patient while things are readied for this mission. Scott notes that Sabinur has recently been conspicuously absent from his own leadership regime. He's been seeing none of even his closest of followers, and Scott is growing increasingly suspicious. The reason for this absence is known by only a select few, and those responsible for it. The X-Men recently managed to score a major and rare moment of victory against Apocalypse that could very well change the tide of the entire eugenics war. During a recent battle, they managed to injure Apocalypse himself, and the despotic leader had gone into hiding to recover. And Sabinur was hidden aboard the ship, which itself is carefully concealed within a hidden location called the blue area of the moon. Apocalypse discovered this vessel located here a long time ago, and has used its many resources and advanced technology for his own purposes, granting him many of the advantages he has long enjoyed during his war against the human race. Working from here, Death discovered the Terrigen Mist, an ancient substance capable of bestowing incredible abilities on a select few. With Apocalypse incapacitated and this new line of research empowering the Horseman, Death decided to take this opportunity to seize Apocalypse's entire domain, declaring as such to Scott Summers. As the X-Men prepared to work with a new recruit named Blink to mount an attack on the ship, in an effort to finish off Apocalypse once and for all, Scott decided to side against Death in this attempted coup, and began to formulate his own ideas. Soon after, the X-Men arrived and battled against Death, who used an army composed of the Inhuman Royal Family, who Death had discovered and been experimenting on for some time. The battle proved unusually hazardous against the X-Men, as the Inhumans bolstered a staggering level of superpowers that were completely new and unknown to this team. As such, Death and his enslaved experiments were able to take down and capture the entire team with relative ease. Only Blink managed to escape, and so Cyclops quietly approached her so that they might join forces. Together, they attacked Death and freed the X-Men. Summers also broke out Starfire, and with some words of encouragement from Cyclops, Blink was able to safely teleport her rescuer away before Death was killed by Shiro, who went on a rampage and obliterated the entire ship. Luckily, the X-Men, Shiro included, were able to flee back to Earth thanks to Blink's abilities just before the ship was destroyed. They remark on the fact that they were saved by Scott Summers, of all people, and Eric could sense there was some nobility growing within one of their deadliest enemies. It left Magneto feeling unusually hopeful that perhaps one day, even Cyclops might join with them in the fight against the tyranny of Apocalypse. As for Colossus, the man began to feel numb in the face of this overwhelming number of dead. He grew up with his brother Maccio in Russia, until the Rasputin brother was captured by Apocalypse and turned into a Horseman. Since then, Piotr has been fighting at the side of the X-Men, but as the years wore on, he began to shut down in response to the endless trauma he witnessed in the age of Apocalypse. It got to a breaking point during a battle in the ruins of Wakanda. The X-Men were dispatched to destroy a group of Sentinel prototypes built in the last days of this desperate nation's life as it attempted to stop Apocalypse before the advanced country was completely wiped out. In spite of the incredible danger he and his friends were in during this fight, Colossus simply sat down and refused to even engage in the enemy. When confronted about this behavior later by Magneto, Colossus apologized for endangering the others, but said he had simply given up. This war had finally beaten his spirit, and there was little the others could say or do to change that. Rasputin could only find comfort and support in the arms of his wife, Catherine Pryde, and she encouraged him to leave the X-Men and start a family with her, away from all of this conflict, with both feeling they contributed more than enough by this time. Magneto, overhearing all of this, agreed and decided to offer the two a compromise of sorts, allowing the couple to step down from active duty as X-Men and move to a place of safety, where they would be tasked with training the next generation of mutants with surviving this hostile, unbearable war. The couple both took Magneto up on his offer, and from that, a new mutant school was born. But unlike the one that Charles Xavier once dreamed of, this would be focused on the one thing of value in Apocalypse's realm: survival. In an abandoned orphanage, Mr. Sinister began the final phases of an ambitious new experiment. The man who once called himself Nathaniel Essex had been quietly working on this project for years, stealing resources where he could from Apocalypse's forces, all in the name of this new line of research. He succeeded at his goal. Using the DNA strands of Jean Grey and Scott Summers, he created a new mutant with an astonishing level of potential. Sinister named the child Nathaniel Grey, after both himself and the boy's biological mother. The clone, put through a rapid aging process, wandered off while Sinister fielded a call from the Dark Beast. Using his innate telepathic abilities, the young Nathan began to learn of the outside world by instinctively drawing on the residual psychic energies left by a handful of children that grew up in this facility. Sinister found the boy quickly and briefly flew into a rage over this disappearance. But he calmed down and began to teach the boy about the current state of the world, briefing him on the nature of Apocalypse, the Seawall, the Infinite Army, and the many, many dangers that lay outside. Sinister, calling the boy his son, said he would be safe as long as he remained here. He promised Grey that things weren't always like this, and they wouldn't always be either. While speaking on these matters, however, a curious Nathan projected their consciousnesses to a human extinction pen miles away, where, in spite of them only being there in astral form, Grey was even able to physically stop an Infinite in its tracks. A shocked Sinister quickly used a small disruptor charge to bring their minds back to Omaha, leaving Nathan puzzled and Mr. Sinister utterly terrified at the power of this new child. With that, Sinister had a teddy bear created for the boy, and quickly put him to rest in a special suspension chamber, telling him that the world was way too dangerous for him to live at the moment, and he would have to artificially grow within this tube for some time. As the chamber sealed, Sinister was left reeling from this encounter. Perhaps the thing that worried him the most was that the boy had already grown a mind and will of his own, and Sinister found himself completely unable to control what information the clone could access at any given moment, thanks to the child's vast telepathic abilities. He realized he had made some miscalculations in that regard. Nothing, not even Nathan himself, would ever be able to contain this level of power long term. And so Sinister set on a new project, a failsafe just in case everything goes wrong. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll continue on with the final chapter in the origins of the Age of Apocalypse with the story of Blink next time.